Chapter 1. Raised to be Queen. We don't know the exact date or place of Jane's birth. We know that she was born sometime in 1537 and spent most of her life in a large country home in a forest area called Bradgate Park. Her mother, Frances, was the king's niece, and her father, Harry, was a rich nobleman who was interested in the latest studies and discoveries. He liked helping students and preachers, so Jane's house was always full of fascinating people. Harry and Frances were only about 20 years old when Jane was born. Later, they had 2 more daughters and 2 sons. A few months after Jane's birth, the kingdom celebrated a very exciting event. King Henry and Jane Seymour, who was his wife at that time, had a baby boy, and they named him Edward. It was a time of great joy because the king had long waited for a son to take his place on the throne. Sadly, Jane Seymour died only 2 weeks after her son was born. In those days, people didn't know as much as we do today about cleanliness and infections, and women often died soon after they had babies. As Lady Jane Grey grew up, she probably visited the royal palace from time to time, where she met her important cousin. Both children were smart and studied under the best teachers. In fact, Edward's teachers were so good that King Henry didn't seem to mind if they believed and taught the gospel as it was explained by the reformers. Lady Jane received a similar education. Since the Greys were closely related to the royal family, her parents taught her to behave like a princess. As most parents at that time, they were strict with her. In January 1547, when King Henry died, his son Edward became king under the name of Edward VI. He was only 9 years old. Before dying, King Henry had appointed a council of 16 men to help his son rule until he turned 18. They, in turn, appointed one of the young king's uncles, Edward Seymour, to act in his place. The most important and influential men on this council agreed with the teachings of the reformers and thought that it was the right time to introduce them to England. The excitement spread to other Christians all over Europe. At that time, people had to follow their ruler's religion, so many came to England from other countries to worship according to their faith. In the meantime, just 1 month after King Henry's death, Jane was invited to live at the house of Edward Seymour's brother Thomas. In those days, many noble families sent their children to stay with other noblemen, where they could get an excellent education. Thomas was now married to Catherine Parr, who had been King Henry's last wife. Catherine and Thomas had fallen in love some years before, but because King Henry asked her to be his wife, and refusing a king would have been very unwise and dangerous, they had not been able to marry. Now they were free to be together again. Their home was always busy. Not counting the visitors, over 150 people usually lived with them. Jane liked Catherine, who was a very kind woman with a special love for children. Jane and Catherine shared a passion for books, fine clothes and jewels, music, art, and dancing. Most of all, however, they both loved the message of the gospel. In fact, Catherine had written a book in which she explained how long it had taken her to understand that message because she had been trying to merit heaven by doing good things. When people do that, she said, they treat everything Jesus did as unimportant. Usually, in the mornings and evenings, everyone in the palace, family, visitors, and servants, gathered to read the Bible and pray. Both Catherine and Jane attended faithfully. On the other hand, some said that Thomas often skipped these family devotions. Jane enjoyed life with the Seymours and learned much while she was under their care. About 9 months after Jane moved in with the Seymours, something wonderful happened to Catherine. She had always wanted to have a child and found out that God was going to answer her prayer. A baby girl was born in August 1548, and Catherine named her Mary. It was a happy time for all, but not for long. Sadly, only 6 days later, Catherine died. For many days, Thomas Seymour was heartbroken and couldn't think of anything else.